Imagine checking your bank account and seeing zero. Now imagine you're a household name. These stars went from riches to rags, and the stories are wilder than any joke they've ever told. Believe it or not, one of them lost his fortune because of a single movie that cost $100 million. 1. Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison wasn't just a comedian. He was a force of nature. He was the original rock and roll comic with the long hair, the leather jacket, and that famous ear-splitting scream. In the 1980s, he was one of the biggest stars in the world. He was selling out huge venues and making millions of dollars. His fans loved his raw, uncensored energy. But here's the thing nobody tells you. His real life was just as chaotic as his act on stage. Kinison lived a wild, non-stop party lifestyle. He spent money as fast as he earned it on anything and everything that could fuel his extreme habits. He was known to carry thousands of dollars in cash in his pockets, handing it out to people. But the real trouble was behind the scenes. He got into a huge, bitter fight with his own brother, who was also his manager. Kinison claimed that his brother had been taking money from him for years. We're talking about a lot of money, possibly millions. The legal battles were long, expensive, and ugly. When Kinison's life was tragically cut short in a car accident in 1992, his estate was a complete mess. He wasn't rich. In fact, he was in debt, owing a huge amount to the IRS. He had gone from the king of comedy to being completely broke. Kinison's story is a classic tale of spending and bad management. But he wasn't the only legend from that era to burn through a massive fortune. His good friend, who was arguably the most important comedian of his time, had an even more expensive set of personal problems. 2. Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor was more than a comedian. He was a genius. He changed stand-up comedy forever, and Hollywood paid him for it. He was one of the first truly global comedy superstars, breaking barriers left and right. Pryor was one of the first black actors to get a multi-million-dollar deal for a movie. He was earning, to put it mildly, an astronomical amount of money. But not all things are what they seem. Behind the laughter, Pryor was a man with deep, dark struggles. He had a very serious and very expensive problem with illegal substances. His habits cost him a fortune. This all came to a head in 1980 in a terrifying incident where he famously lit himself on fire while using flammable liquids. He suffered burns on over 50% of his body and nearly lost his life. It was a massive wake-up call. But that wasn't his only money drain. The other problem? His love life. Richard Pryor was married 7 times to 5 different women. Each one of those partings came with a massive legal bill. The combination of his wild spending, his dangerous habits, and his multiple expensive divorces meant that his bank account was constantly being emptied, no matter how many millions he made. Pryor's story is a tragedy of a brilliant mind battling personal demons. But for the next comedian, the fall was just as fast, and it happened right in front of all his friends long before his time. 3. Chris Farley. If you watched Saturday Night Live in the 90s, you loved Chris Farley. He was a human cartoon, a lovable, high-energy force of nature who would do anything for a laugh. Whether he was a motivational speaker living in a van down by the river or a Chippendales dancer, he stole every scene he was in. His movies, like Tommy Boy and Black Sheep, were huge hits. He was on top of the world. But the thing nobody tells you is that Farley was struggling badly. He was living the Hollywood lifestyle to the absolute extreme. He was known for his incredible generosity, often picking up the bar tab for an entire room of people and throwing wild, non-stop parties. But he was also surrounded by people who enabled his worst instincts. He had a serious problem with overindulgence, and his habits were costing him a fortune. His career was on a rocket ship to the moon, but his personal life was in a nosedive. His intense lifestyle put a huge strain on his health. In 1997, at just 33 years old, his body simply gave out. His wild life had caught up with him in the most final way. He had earned millions and millions of dollars, but when his estate was settled, reports showed there was surprisingly little left. The Hollywood excess had drained it all away. Farley was part of a new generation of SNL stars, but he was tragically following the exact same path set by the original wild man of the show, who also lived too fast and left us too soon. 4. John Belushi. John Belushi was the first rock star of Saturday Night Live. He was the guy everyone wanted to be, or be with. He was the rebellious, chaotic, and hilarious center of the show. When he made Animal House, it became one of the biggest comedy movies of all time, and Belushi became one of the biggest stars in the world. He followed that up with the Blues Brothers. He was the definition of too much, too fast. And, to put it mildly, he lived that way too. He was famous for his non-stop party lifestyle. What many overlooked is that this lifestyle was incredibly expensive. There's an infamous story from the set of the Blues Brothers that the movie's budget included a special line item just for party favors to keep Belushi happy and focused. He was burning through his money just as fast as he earned it. His friends, like his partner Dan Aykroyd, were constantly worried about him. He was known to disappear on multi-day benders. In 1982, this fast life came to a tragic and sudden end. He was found in a hotel bungalow in Hollywood. He was only 33. Like Farley, he had made millions of dollars, but his intense personal habits had drained his savings completely, leaving almost nothing behind. Belushi and Farley's stories are Hollywood tragedies, but the next comedian's story is just wild, and thankfully he's still here to tell the tale, even if he almost wasn't. 5. Artie Lange. Artie Lange is a comedian's comedian, famous for his brutal honesty, his amazing stories, and his legendary time as a co-host on The Howard Stern Show. During his years on The Stern Show, Artie was making big money. We're talking $1 million a year job, plus sold-out stand-up gigs every weekend. He was rolling in it. But Artie had two very big, very expensive problems: a massive gambling habit and a deep, dark struggle with illegal substances. He has been shockingly open about it. He would bet huge amounts of money on sports, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars on a single football game, and lose. He has also talked about how his other personal habits cost him thousands of dollars every single day. Eventually, it all came crashing down. He lost his Stern Show gig. He lost his other TV jobs. His life completely spiraled out of control. He ended up totally broke. At one point, he was even working as a garbage collector as part of a recovery program. He went from $1 million a year job and a luxury penthouse to having literally nothing in his bank account. It was a fall so complete, it's a miracle he survived. Artie lost it all to his personal demons and bad bets. But what if you lose it all because of one single catastrophic movie? The next comedian's failure is so big, it's a Hollywood legend. 6. Eddie Murphy. Okay, let's be very clear about this. Eddie Murphy is one of the richest comedians who has ever lived. He is comedy royalty and is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But even kings can make mistakes, and in the late 90s and early 2000s, Eddie's career was in a major spiral. He was making a string of movies that just weren't funny. And it all came to a head with one single disastrous film, The Adventures of Pluto Nash. This movie isn't just a flop, it is one of the biggest financial bombs in the history of Hollywood. Here's a wow factor for you. The movie cost $100 million to make. The marketing budget was another $20 million. So they spent a total of $120 million. Guess how much it made at the box office? In the entire world? $7 million total. The movie lost over $113 million. It was a financial black hole. Now, this didn't break Eddie Murphy because he was already incredibly rich from Beverly Hills Cop, Trading Places, and The Nutty Professor. But it could have. It was a massive public humiliation and a financial disaster that would have bankrupted almost any other star. It just proves that even the biggest stars can make a mistake so big, it costs 9 figures. Eddie's bank account was big enough to survive the Pluto Nash bomb, but the next comedian wasn't so lucky. He went from being the next Eddie Murphy to being almost completely forgotten. 7. Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase was the king. He was the first breakout star of Saturday Night Live. In the 1980s, you couldn't get bigger. Caddyshack, National Lampoon's Vacation, Fletch. He was the handsome, smart-aleck leading man, and he was earning millions and millions of dollars for every movie. He had it all. So what happened? 2 things hit him, and they hit him hard: his attitude and his personal life. Behind the scenes, Chevy got a reputation for being, to put it mildly, extremely difficult to work with. He was known for being arrogant and mean to writers and other actors. Because of this, the good movie offers started to dry up. But the real financial drain was his second divorce in 1980. It was a long, nasty, and very public legal battle that cost him a gigantic chunk of his 1980s fortune. His career hit a dead end. In 1993, he tried to launch his own late-night talk show to compete with Letterman. It was so bad, it's considered one of the worst TV shows ever made. It was canceled after just 5 weeks. He went from the A-list to a Hollywood punchline. He wasn't totally broke, but his earning power fell off a cliff, and his reputation was in tatters. Chevy's fall was a slow burn of a dying career, but the next comedian's financial ruin was a constant, vicious cycle, all thanks to a single habit he just couldn't kick. 8. Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald was a true original. He was a comedian's comedian, a legend for his time as the host of Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live, and a guest that talk show hosts loved. He was brilliant, and he made a lot of money doing it. But Norm had a secret, a huge one. He was a compulsive gambler. He wasn't just a casual player. He was an all-in, high-stakes addict. Norm told stories about it himself in his book. He would go to a casino and win $100,000, but instead of walking away, he would get greedy and bet it all on one more hand of cards and lose everything. He admitted that he went broke, completely broke, 3 separate times in his life. He once lost his entire life savings, over $1 million, in a single terrible weekend in Atlantic City. He was caught in a constant cycle. He would go on a stand-up tour, make a ton of money, and then immediately fly to a casino and lose it all. He was constantly climbing out of a financial hole, all because of his love of the game. Norm's massive losses were self-inflicted, but the next comedian's career and his bank account were completely destroyed by the outside world. He became so controversial that Hollywood and America shut him down. 9. Andrew Dice Clay. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, no comedian was bigger than Andrew Dice Clay. He was a phenomenon. He dressed in a leather jacket, smoked cigarettes on stage, and told shocking nursery rhymes. He was the first comedian ever to sell out Madison Square Garden in New York City 2 nights in a row. He wasn't just a comic, he was a rock star. But his act was, to put it mildly, extremely controversial. Many groups protested his shows, saying his jokes were hateful. The backlash grew and grew. When he was asked to host Saturday Night Live in 1990, a cast member and the musical guest refused to appear on the show with him. He was effectively blacklisted. The big movie offers stopped. The arena tours dried up. His career and his massive income vanished almost overnight. Here's the wow factor. He went from making millions of dollars a year to making almost nothing. He had to file for bankruptcy. He lost his giant house. For a while, he was seen playing in tiny clubs for just a few $100s a night. It was one of the most sudden and complete career collapses in comedy history. Dice's controversy was about his entire act, but the next comedian lost his biggest job over a single joke, a joke that he posted on the internet. 10. Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried had one of the most famous and recognizable voices in the entire world. That screeching, squinting, yelling voice was his trademark. He was Iago the parrot in Disney's Aladdin. He was in Problem Child. But his real steady paycheck, his big money gig, came from a little white duck. For over a decade, Gilbert Gottfried was the voice of the Aflac duck. It was a job that reportedly paid him millions of dollars a year just to shout, "Aflac!" Then, in 2011, a terrible, devastating earthquake and tsunami hit Japan. Gilbert, who was known for his shocking, boundary-pushing humor, went on Twitter. And he made several jokes about the tragedy. What many overlooked was one crucial detail. Aflac, his employer, does 75% of its entire business in Japan. The backlash was immediate. Within hours of his posts, Aflac held a meeting and fired him. Just like that, his multi-million-dollar-a-year gig was gone. He lost his biggest and most reliable paycheck, all because of a few bad-taste tweets. Gilbert lost his job over a joke, but the next comedian's entire career was a flop that almost ruined him before he even got started, until he was saved by his family's secret business. 11. Pauly Shore. In the early 1990s, you could not escape Pauly Shore. The Weasel was the face of MTV. His movies Encino Man and Son-in-Law were huge, surprise hits. He was a massive star, and everyone thought he was the next big thing, a new generation comedy hero. He was set to make millions for years to come. Then he made a movie called Biodome. It was a critical and financial disaster. It was followed by Jury Duty, which was even worse. His movie star career? It ended. Instantly. He went from being the face of a generation to a total punchline. His income from movies dried up, and he disappeared from the spotlight. But here's the part many overlooked. Pauly Shore didn't go broke. Why not? Because his family is Hollywood royalty. His mother, Mitzi Shore, founded and owned the Comedy Store on the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles. It's one of the most famous, important, and valuable comedy clubs on the entire planet. His movie career died, but his family's smart real estate and business moves meant he had a massive safety net. He would never truly be ruined. Pauly had a family safety net to catch him. The next comedian had nothing but bad advice and a bad memory, and it led him to one of the biggest and most public bankruptcies in comedy history. 12. Sinbad. Sinbad was a 90s icon. He was everywhere. He starred in movies like Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Houseguest. He had multiple hit HBO comedy specials. He was a clean, family-friendly comedian who was loved by millions. And he made a fortune. So, what in the world happened? The fall was slow, and then all at once. It was two things. First, he trusted the wrong people with his money, and they made a series of terrible investments that lost him millions. But the second part, and this is the big one, is just taxes. He just didn't pay them. Or he thought his team was handling it, and they weren't. The IRS, the government's tax agency, eventually came calling. and they wanted millions of dollars in back taxes. Here's the wow factor. He filed for bankruptcy in 2009. In the filing, he claimed he was over $10 million in debt. He tried to make a comeback, but the debt was just too big. He had to file for bankruptcy again in 2013. He even had to sell his $2.5 million mansion just to pay off a fraction of what he owed. He lost it all. Sinbad's money problems were from taxes and bad advice. The next comedian's potential problems came from trying to pay for his entire family and all of their many projects. 13. Damon Wayans. Let's be clear, the Wayans family is comedy royalty. In Living Color, the show created by Kenan and Damon Wayans changed television and launched the careers of Jim Carrey, Jennifer Lopez, and Jamie Foxx. Damon himself is a massive star from My Wife and Kids and the Lethal Weapon TV show. Damon Wayans is not broke. He is extremely wealthy, but the cost of being the head of a comedy dynasty is huge. The Wayans family is a business. They are constantly producing movies like Scary Movie and White Chicks, and TV shows. These are massive financial risks. A single movie can cost $20 million to make. If it bombs, that money is just gone. What many overlooked is the constant legal side of the business. The Wayans family has been involved in numerous lawsuits over the years, from copyright claims on In Living Color to disputes with production partners. While Damon himself is rich, the business of being a Wayans is a non-stop, high-stakes, high-risk money game where one or two big failures could have cost him everything. Damon Wayans successfully managed his massive family empire, but the next comedian on our list saw his own empire start to crumble when his body and his mind began to fail him in a very public way. 14. Martin Lawrence. In the mid-1990s, Martin Lawrence was arguably the biggest comedian in the world. His TV show Martin was a cultural phenomenon. His movies, like Bad Boys and Blue Streak, were massive blockbusters. He was a $20 million a movie guy, putting him in the same league as Tom Cruise or Will Smith. He was on top of the entire world. But then, in the middle of all this success, things got weird. He had a very public and bizarre incident in 1996. He was found wandering in the middle of a busy Los Angeles intersection, shouting and screaming at cars. He was carrying a piece and was severely dehydrated. This wasn't the only time. Later, he was preparing for a movie role by jogging in heavy clothes in the hot sun. He collapsed from severe heat exhaustion and fell into a coma for 3 days. He almost didn't make it. Because of this erratic behavior and his health scares, movie studios became afraid to hire him. For a while, he became uninsurable, meaning the production companies couldn't get a policy on him. His tours were halted and the movie offers stopped. He didn't go broke, but his 9-figure income stream stopped overnight. Martin's scare was due to serious health issues, but the next comedian spent a fortune on her health in one of the most unusual ways imaginable. 15. Eddie Izzard. Eddie Izzard is a beloved and brilliant comedian known for her smart, surreal, and hilarious stand-up specials. She has sold out arenas all over the globe, performing in multiple languages. She has made a very comfortable living, but she has another passion, one that is a massive financial gamble: politics. Eddie has run for political office multiple times in her home country, the United Kingdom. She has tried to become a member of Parliament. What many overlooked is that this is not cheap. It's a huge financial drain. First, you have to stop touring to campaign, which means your main income, making people laugh, stops completely. Second, you have to spend a ton of your own money on your campaign, paying for travel, staff, and events. There's a wow factor idea that she lost money on marathons. The truth is the opposite. She famously ran dozens of marathons back-to-back for charity, raising millions for other people. But her political runs have cost her a fortune in lost income, all for a dream she hasn't yet achieved. It's a noble gamble, but a very expensive one. Eddie gambled her own money on her political dreams. The next comedian on our list is currently risking his entire fortune and career over a series of massive public scandals. 16. Russell Brand. Russell Brand had a wild career. He started as a very edgy and controversial comedian in the UK. Then he came to Hollywood and became a huge movie star in films like Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek. After that, he reinvented himself again as a popular social commentator and online personality with millions of followers on YouTube. Then in 2023, everything came crashing down. Serious and troubling allegations from his past surfaced in a huge public investigation. The thing nobody tells you is how fast the money stops in a situation like this. Here's a wow factor for you. Within 24 hours of the news breaking, his YouTube channel was completely demonetized, cutting off his main source of income. His book deals were canceled. His live tour was postponed, which means canceled. His income went from millions of dollars a year to zero. And at the exact same time, his expenses shot through the roof. He had to hire a massive team of very expensive lawyers to defend himself in court. His entire fortune is currently in a nosedive, and the legal battles have only just begun. Russell's financial fall is happening right now in real time, but the next comedian's financial woes came from a much more common and much more relatable problem: a very, very expensive divorce. 17. Jim Jefferies. Jim Jefferies is the brash, loud-mouthed Australian comedian who became a massive star in the United States. He's famous for his storytelling, his controversial opinions, and his hit TV show, The Jim Jefferies Show. He sells out theaters all over the world and has made a lot of money. He's not broke now, but he has been very open about the one time in his life he had a massive financial reset. It was his divorce. He got married before he became a gigantic household name. When they decided to split up, his newfound wealth was part of the settlement. He had to pay out a large portion of what he had just earned. Add to that the massive cost of relocating his entire life from Australia to the United States. And then having to buy a new, very expensive house in Los Angeles. It was a huge financial hit. In his own words, he had to start over from a financial standpoint right at the moment his career was finally taking off. Jim Jefferies' financial reset was a personal one. But the next three comedians were all part of the same legendary comedy tour. And their financial stories are all wildly different. 18. Bill Engvall. Bill Engvall was a huge part of one of the most successful comedy tours of all time, the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Alongside Jeff Foxworthy, Larry the Cable Guy, and Ron White, he made an absolute fortune. The tour sold millions of tickets, the movie was a huge hit, and it spawned a successful TV show, Blue Collar TV. Bill Engvall, with his "Here's Your Sign" catchphrase, was set for life. But what many overlooked was what happened after the gold rush. When Blue Collar TV was canceled and the tours started to wind down, that massive multi-million-dollar income stream slowed to a trickle. Bill had to figure out, what now? He didn't go broke, but he had a serious financial reality check. His peak earning years were suddenly behind him. He had to reinvent himself. He cleverly pivoted, appearing as a contestant on Dancing with the Stars, where he was a fan favorite. And he hosted a number of other game shows. He found a new path, but he never again reached the incredible financial heights of that blue-collar peak. Bill found a new path to keep the money coming in. But the next member of that same tour built an empire so big, its collapse was even more stunning. 19. Larry the Cable Guy. Okay, the idea that Larry the Cable Guy, real name Dan Whitney, is broke is, to put it mildly, just not true. He is a financial genius. The Blue Collar Comedy Tour was just the start. He became the voice of Mater, the tow truck in the Disney and Pixar Cars movies. That franchise has made billions of dollars, and he gets a piece of all of it. His "Get R Done" catchphrase was on t-shirts, hats, talking fish plaques, and barbecue sauce. He built a merchandise empire. Now the users list says his merchandise empire collapsed. And in a way, that's true. The fad ended. The 2000s wave of his merchandise eventually faded away, and stores stopped selling it. If Larry had only relied on that merchandise, he would have gone broke when people stopped buying it. But here's the wow factor. His genius was taking all that t-shirt money and investing it. He poured it into real estate, farms, and other smart, quiet businesses. So when the merch empire faded, it didn't matter. He was already too rich to fail. Larry proved to be a secret business whiz. But the final member of the blue-collar crew saw his own business venture go up in smoke. Literally. 20. Ron Y. White, Ron Tater Salad. White was the fourth member of the Blue Collar Tour. He was the hard-partying, scotch-drinking, cigar-smoking bad boy of the group. And just like the others, he made millions and millions of dollars. But Ron had a problem. He loved his lifestyle a little too much. Like a true connoisseur, he decided to invest his new fortune in the things he loved. He started his own businesses. First, it was a cigar and bourbon company, which failed. Then he decided to go all in on his own brand of tequila. What many overlooked is that the celebrity alcohol market is brutally competitive and incredibly expensive. You have to spend millions on marketing just to get people to try it. For a long time, Ron's tequila brand was a massive money pit. He joked on stage that his business manager called him and told him he was one more hit album away from bankruptcy because his tequila company was losing so much money. He came dangerously close to drinking and spending his entire blue-collar fortune. He eventually managed to turn the company around, but he almost became the broke punchline of the group.